All right, hello and welcome back to another installment of the Wide Right Podcast. I'm Manny Navarro, Miami Hurricanes beat writer for The Athletic. It is Thursday, August 4th, the eve of the start of Miami Hurricanes fall camp, around 11 a.m. And joined once again by Andrew Ferrelli, our recruiting insider from the South Florida Express. I know that all the talk is about camp right now, Andrew, but recruiting is nonstop. It's 24/7, 365 days a year and Miami could very well get a commitment here on Friday as camp opens in three-star offensive lineman Conor Lou, who's I guess an All-American center. And they've got other guys that they've had visiting. There've been conversations about Dijon Johnson, top 100 recruit, cornerback out of Tampa Wharton. So there's things going on. Jaden Bonsu is going to be announcing, I guess, the 14th. There's so much for us to talk about, and including that barbecue that they hosted this past weekend. So let's start here. Let's start. I'm going to give you a little bit of direction, and we'll bounce around to different topics. Let's start with Conor Lou and what you've sort of heard, the latest on him.
I've heard good things about him lately. I think they feel confident landing him this Friday. Commits on, I think, 6:45 p.m. on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everything I've heard from the coaching staffs, from people around him, they seem pretty confident they're going to be able to land him. I know they're very high on him. I know he's a three-star on the composite. Some of the sites have him lower. 247 has him as a four-star. His top four schools are Miami, Auburn, Clemson, and Georgia. Definitely a high quality player there. I know some people think he's in that conversation for one of the top centers in the country. So I think they feel pretty confident about landing him, and he's someone that could, really be a nice addition to this incredible offensive line class that they're building. Could be the center of the future. He's got a great first step. They really like him. He's got that nasty streak that you want, and he's a really smart kid as a 4.0 GPA, which is especially important for someone playing that center position as they're in charge of a lot of the protections and things like that. I know they're very high on him, and I think they feel like they've got a good shot at landing him this Friday.
It's crazy because I feel like for a while there he was kind of just behind the scenes. He was a name of a guy who visited, but it felt like Miami was maybe keeping it under wraps a little bit, right? How heavy they were in their pursuit of him because there were other guys mentioned, right? Allow Salinin, conversations about him, so much on Samson Okunlola,
Mhm.
other offensive linemen that you know committed elsewhere or still haven't committed, and he was just kind of sitting in the background. But they really like him, from what I understand.
Yeah, they love him. I think just all the other big names out there, he's kind of got lost in the shuffle, and then he's also another a kid that's played it pretty close to the vest. He hasn't done a ton of interviews. He hasn't been all over social media like a lot of these other guys. So it's just been a combination of things that have kind of kept things a little bit quieter around his recruitment. But I mean, 247 has him as a top 14 interior offensive lineman. Like I said, Miami coaches, a lot of people I know that are just analysts and stuff like that in the recruiting world think he's definitely one of the top centers in the country. So his recruitment's kind of stayed under wraps a little bit, but they've just kind of stayed on him consistently the whole time, and I think they feel it's gonna pay off at the end of this week.
Yeah, and of course you've mentioned other guys that they're after, the kid out of Hawaii whose name I cannot pronounce either. He's on the radar. Obviously, we mentioned Samson Okunlola. I talked about Monroe Freeling, another offensive tackle. That Miami is still pursuing and won't make up his mind, I guess, until after the season or starts. The regular season. He wants to come down and see Miami, Florida. So, I mean, this would be commitment number 5 on the offensive line. And I've heard that probably 6 at most is what they would take. Do you think that means that maybe somebody gets bounced out of the commitment? Like some of the lower end guys, like Kinsler or Tinalau, who are not rated as high as some of these other players.
I could possibly see that. I could also see them taking 6, maybe 7 at most, depending upon who wants in. Um, I think if Samson commits, which I think they still feel good about. I know he was actually wanted to make it down here for the barbecue things. Ended up not going through
Mm-hmm.
with that, but he was trying to get down here. If they get him and then Freewheeling, I think they might take 7. I know they like a lot of the guys that are in the class right now. Um, they're very high on Tinalau, who's even though he's a lower ranked guy. So I think if Freeling and Sampson both wanted in, I think I could see them taking 7 in that case.
Wow, that would be amazing. And I looked I we discussed this in one of the previous pods, but I looked up the most loaded sort of offensive line classes of all time, and Texas, Alabama are up there. Texas last year took 7
Mhm.
linemen, and it's just kind of rare to see that. I think most schools will take 4 or 5 a year, but 7 would be kind of unprecedented for Miami. I don't think they've ever taken that many.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
think they kind of want to rebuild that room completely from the ground up. I know, obviously has been far from the strength of the team the last couple years, and they're losing a lot of older guys after this year too. So I think they wanted to bring in a large class, just kind of rebuild that room right away. So I think they're going to take a big group of offensive linemen.
yeah. All right. So he most likely will end up committing to Miami tomorrow. We feel good about that. That
Mhm.
would be commitment number 17, and right now they're the ninth ranked class. But there's been some interesting conversations about other guys potentially joining this class, and one of them was Dijon Johnson, who I know he was with you guys with the South Florida Express. I was out in Las Vegas with you guys for the tournament, and he was there. And he was committed to Ohio State, but there were things that changed in his life that I guess make him want to stay a little bit closer to home now. And it appeared that this is going to be another Canes Gators battle, and there were rumors always he's going to come down visit Miami after he visits Florida with Friday Night Lights. And then he never ends up making the trip down. What can you tell us about Dijon, because he is a top 100 player and an elite cornerback?
Yeah, I mean, just off the bat, Dijon is, like you said, an elite cornerback. Definitely one of the best players we had on our Vegas roster, which was absolutely loaded with 4 and 5 star talent. Um, and he's a guy that's kind of gone back and forth. It seemed like for a while Miami was in a really good shape there. Then he did go to Friday Night Lights at UF, um, and they convinced him to stay the next day and not come down to Miami. And everyone at UF thought it was kind of over then, that he was going to commit either that Sunday or that Monday, and it never happened. And it seems like he's kind of maybe taking a step back. He's going to take some visits and stuff there, and I think that bodes well for UM. If he had made that commitment Sunday or Monday right there, it definitely would have been to UF. But I think if he does, end up coming down here to UM over the next couple of weeks, I think Miami will feel pretty good about that once they get him on campus. So we'll see if he does. The longer he continues to drag it out and take some visits, especially if he does make it down here to Coral Gables, I think that puts him in a better position with him. I know UF is definitely not nearly as confident as if he would have gone ahead and pulled the trigger and committed that weekend when they had him up there in Gainesville.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that it seems like everybody was ready to just announce that it was going to happen, that it was a done deal. I mean, I think Rivals posted a story
Yep.
saying he had committed to Florida, and then I guess he must have just said no, right? I mean, he must have stepped back from that decision.
Yeah, I mean, everyone there thought it was a done deal, that he was going to announce it either that Sunday or that Monday. Like you said, Rivals even ran a full story on it. They sent out the tweet, they deleted the tweet, and then ended up leaving the story up for a while later, longer. And then just kind of never happened. And I think he decided to just kind of take a step back, reevaluate his options, take some more visits. And I think that's definitely a positive for Miami. Obviously, if he would have committed that Sunday or Monday without making it down here, it would have been DUF. So I think him taking a step back and hopefully getting down here to Gables would be a big win for them.
Yeah, so the longer he holds off, the better it stands for Miami, who, by the way, is also still on Damari Brown, and another guy who's part of that South Florida Express team out of Plantation American Heritage. Cornerback, I would say, is still a position that they're obviously looking to address. And we'll see where if they can get Dijon and Damari. I mean, that would be one hell. I mean, that'd be 3 really good
Yep.
cornerbacks with the kid that they have out of Melbourne, who's
Robert
also,
Stafford.
yeah, Robert Stafford is also a 4-star, kind of elite, um, uh, cover guy. So we'll see how that sort of progresses. I'd say another area they're still focusing on, and you and I have talked obviously a lot off air, is receiver, because while they're happy, with Nathaniel Joseph and Robbie Washington, 2 guys that project as slot receivers at the next level, they're still looking for that outside guy. What's some of the latest, maybe Andrew, you can tell us on their pursuit of receiver?
So they're really circling back at pretty much any big name receiver that there is. They're going all out. They want to get, that high 4 or 5 star guy, at least one, possibly 2 of them in this class at that receiver position. And Rashad has been a huge part of that. Obviously, Miami's quarterback commit in this class. He has been just recruiting nonstop. He's been in everyone's ear. Even guys like Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes that are committed to Ohio State at IMG, and Brandon at American Heritage. Rashad has been in their ear constantly. Carnell was actually saying at IMG's media day that Rashad has been talking to them nonstop, trying to get them to visit. So they've been talking about it. Those are obviously very long shots, but I think some more possible guys. Hakeem Williams, he's been on. I still think they're in the picture there. And then Jurion Dickey is another big name that we've seen pop up a lot this last week or so. He's been in Miami. I think he just left last night. He was in Miami for almost a week. Was fishing, meeting the mayor of Coral Gables, meeting the mayor of Miami. Just kind of experiencing everything there is down here. Also made it to the barbecue on Saturday, which was big. And then he's, I think he's number 3 receiver in the country right now. He's currently committed to Oregon, but he's been down here a couple times, played with the Miami Immortals, so he was down here for different events with them. Was on that 7-on-7 team with Rashado, so Rashado's on him hard. So I think Jurion Dickey's a name that they're definitely looking to flip from Oregon and could possibly be that 5-star big time outside target that they're looking for in this class.
Yeah, and here's one thing I'll say about all that is, when you come to Miami, listen, a lot of people love the vacation in Miami, right?
Hmm.
But you come with your whole family, you spend a week here, kind of like you're testing out, would I want to live here type of deal. Is this paradise to live in, maybe? That's the sense I get from this whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like a positive thing. He came with his mom, with his siblings, everything like that. He's huge into fishing. So he was down here fishing the whole time. Obviously that's a huge plus. He was out here on boats fishing one day, fishing just in different lakes and canals for like peacock bass and stuff another day. So I mean, you're not going to find a better, more diverse fishing spot than down here in South Florida, and that's something that is a really big deal to him. He probably cares more about fishing than football, honestly. Like fishing is his passion. He's an incredible football player. Works his butt off in football. That's not a knock on that, but fishing is just something he really, really loves, and it's gonna play a part in his recruitment.
Wow. And I guess I had heard, I know the 247 guys were mentioning this, and you and I, we weren't out there. You were working. What were you
Mhm.
doing Sunday? You were working, weren't you?
Yeah. Mhm.
And I was here at home. I had family over, visiting, and so I didn't go down to the barbecue, but I had heard they had left out fishing poles, for these guys at Lake Osceola or
E-
something.
Exactly. Yeah. So where there's the bridge that walks across, there's they had left out some fishing poles there,
Hmm.
and he was there fishing. And some of the other guys too were enjoying that fishing on the lake, which just some more attention to detail that Mario puts into recruiting.
Hmm. Yeah. It just shows you again what they're all about, is making these guys, every need that they have, sort of fulfilling that. So that's the receiver position, and I guess we'll see going forward. One other guy I want to throw out there, William Fowles, because the former Dade Christian, 4-star receiver. I guess he's at Avant Garde, which I've yet to be. I've never been to Avant Garde. I don't know how long it's been around as a building, as a school. I
Mhm.
guess it's a new school, but um, just curious about him and what's sort of the latest, because people have always thought, well, maybe Miami will offer him or give him the green light to commit. What's kind of the situation with Fowles?
I think he wants to be at Miami. I think we've seen just through social media posts, he's been down there a couple of times. Like he wants to end up there. But I think right now they just have some guys higher on their board. Especially, just some of the guys you mentioned. They're really, they want to land that big 5-star name at that receiver position. So I think right now they have a couple guys higher than him. So at the moment, I don't see him in this class. Obviously, things could change if they miss on a couple of those guys, or he really impresses them in a workout or in this upcoming season. They might give him the green light and circle back and see if they can get him in this class. But right now, I do think they have some guys higher than him on their board that they're looking at.
I mean, it feels like a different world we're talking about, right? With recruiting, that they can
Yeah.
put a kid like William Fowles, who's, a top 300, 400 player in the country, a 4-star kid, and just say, hey, we got bigger fish we're after, so to
Yeah.
speak, and
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
and to feel confident that if you wanted to go back and get them, you probably could.
Yeah, it's definitely a whole new recruiting world with Mario here compared to some of those last staffs.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the barbecue and maybe some other positions here that Miami wants to address. They've got one defensive end right now committed, one defensive lineman, obviously, in Jaden Wayne, who's former 5-star. He should be a four. He should still be a 5-star, but they've got him as a 4-star now in the composite rankings. You know, that's their one defensive lineman, but they're in on a lot of different kids, and there were some good defensive linemen down here. I know for the barbecue. What are you hearing on that front?
They are pushing really hard. Same thing to get a couple 5-star defensive ends in this class to join Jayden Wayne. I know they are very, very high on Damon Wilson, who's been
Out of Venice,
uh,
right?
correct out of Venice. He's been a very fast riser in the rankings. I think he's up to like a top 30 player last I saw, or he's actually up 247's composite has him all the way up to top 5 now.
Wow.
The edge out of Venice, and he's a kid that's just shot up the boards. They're hard after him. He's definitely one of the kids that got the most attention at that barbecue. And then Samuel Mpemba from IMG. IMG had a massive amount of kids that made it down here for the barbecue. A lot of the top 23 and top 24 guys, to the point where they were kind of scrambling to get rides to make sure everyone could get down here that wanted to get down here. And he was one of those guys that came down. It seems like it's going to be a Miami, Georgia battle for him. He's another kid that's a big 5-star defensive end. So I think those are their two main targets. If you even get one of those to pair with Jayden Wayne, that's two of the top 5, two of the top 6 defensive ends in the country. So I think that's a really nice haul there at that position. And then just on the the interior defensive line, there's a couple guys that they're still working. David Hicks, I think they're still trying to make some moves there. The number one defensive tackle in the country. He was down here for the spring game. He was a former Texas A&M commit. So I think they're trying to get a feel there, see if he's still someone that they can get interested in come down here. Jordan Hall from Jacksonville is another one that they're kind of talking to as well. It seems like some of the guys left on the defensive line board are kind of playing the long game with their recruiting. So I don't expect any decisions or anything there, but they're definitely still in it and still on for some top names at both the defensive end and the defensive tackle position. But it seems like all the guys that they're really involved with, they're kind of playing that long recruiting game. I don't expect to see any decisions until maybe towards the middle of the year, later part of the year.
Yeah, that'll be one I think that goes up right until the end, and so that'll be interesting to watch. But that I would say cornerback, receiver, defensive line, still areas to address as the season and camp sort of gets rolling here. You mentioned all the IMG kids. It's kind of unique situation there. I think Mario likes the fact that a lot of these elite kids, the Riley Williams of the world, the Jaden Waynes have gone down there. He's obviously got Maui Goa there. I know IMG had their own, sort of media day / activity camp, whatever, a couple weekends ago. And there could potentially be more from what we've heard, right? Some of these rumors that there could be
Yep.
more guys who Miami is after transferring there. Just the IMG situation in general, knowing the recruiting game, getting the inroads there, Andrew, what's your opinion on that and sort of the setup that Miami has now where they're getting a lot of these IMG guys?
I mean, it's massive to have that connection with them. I mean, obviously, IMG is putting out 3, 4, 5, 5-star guys every year now. It seems, plus a whole bunch of just top Power 5 guys every year. So to be able to build that relationship with them and use that to your advantage, the fact that they're only 3, 4 hours away, obviously is huge. Mario seems to have a really good relationship with a lot of coaches and the staff there. They went out and got Francis Mauigo, the top ranked player at that school, which is just something that hasn't happened. The top ranked kid at IMG's always gone to the Alabamas or the Georgias or where schools like that. So to go out and get him, you get Jayden Wayne. They're really doing some good work at IMG building that pipeline, and I think in the next coming weeks we're going to see some more Miami targets transfer there and possibly even 1 or 2 current commits as well. So they're really going to continue to build that pipeline with IMG, continue to increase those relationships. And I think Mario is really capitalizing on having it right down the road.
Yeah, within 3.5 hour drive from the Bradenton / Tampa area there on the west coast of Florida.
Mhm.
Andrew, Miami got a kicker in the 2024 class. I feel like every time we talk about 2024, it's like, man, it's so far away, but he is the top ranked kicker. So that is a nice pickup. I want to ask you in general about the 2024 class because they've got essentially 2 commitments now, the kicker and Antoine Jackson out of Dillard, who's one of the elite cornerbacks in the country. Um, you're part of the SFE program. There's some elite 2024 guys.
Yes.
Obviously, Miami's after in JoJo Trader and Jeremiah Smith. Just curious, chatter on 2024 guys. Any other potential commitments here? I know we're more than a year away, but anything on the 24 class that you're hearing?
I still think it's a while away for a lot of those guys. I don't see any commitments imminent. But I know Miami is doing a really good job on just getting on those guys already. I think Mario mentioned it was at media day or saw a quote from him recently, saying that he still feels that they're, a year and a half away, from really having those relationships and those inroads with the local schools and local coaches and everything like that that they want to. Um, so I think given another year to build those relationships and everything like that, you're going to see some really special commits coming out of that 24 class from down here. I think that could be really the first class that you see where they start to lock down this Dade, Broward, Palm Beach area. And it would be an incredible class to start doing it because, like you said, guys like JoJo Trader, Jeremiah Smith, um, there's a lot of really high, the five-star linebacker, I believe is at Columbus as well. There's some really high quality 2024 guys down here, and I think given a whole nother year for Mario to build those connections and those relationships, I think that could be a really special group. Um, Rod Mack, who's one of our coaches at SFE, he's been with a big part of that group in his Purple Machine youth team coming up in that 24 class with a large part of those top 24 guys. And he said, he's said it multiple times just around SFE stuff that he thinks that's a group that can bring a school a national championship.
Wow.
And a lot of them have played together growing up, a lot of them transferred to Chaminade together now or played together at different high schools, or 7-on-7 teams. So it seems like it's a lot of kids that want to stick together. So if Miami can hammer it home and bring home that group of kids, I think it's definitely a top class in the country, top three class in the country, and definitely sets you up for some incredible success going forward. But a lot of it just, like everything else in recruiting is going to come down to how they look on the field this year. And next year, if you come out, you win 9, 10 games, you are in the ACC championship. You kind of give these kids a little bit of a glimpse of what this program is going to look like going forward, how they're going to improve under Cristobal. Um, I think it puts you in a really, really good position to really keep a lot of those top 24 kids home. And I think I agree with Rod Mack. That's the kind of kids and that group of South Florida kids in 24 is the kind that can win a school a national championship and the kind of kids that we've seen going to help Bama win national championships or Georgia win national championships. So I think if you put together a solid season, coupled with what Mario's been able to kind of build already with the relationships in that 24 class, if you keep those kids home, I think it really sets you up to be one of the top teams consistently in the playoff going forward.
Yeah, and yeah, I've heard a lot of positive things from the 24 kids, but they all want to see it on the field. They all want to see how this team does, because it's a lot of talk until the W's and L's start lining up there. One other thing I asked Mario during the press conference about visits because we have all these commitments, right? Miami has all these commitments right now. 16 kids, potentially 17 after tomorrow. But we know how this works. The kids come in the summertime, then they get to November, December, and I want to take another trip, right? I want to take
Mm-hmm.
another visit. I want to see this campus. And he didn't spell. I asked him, what's your philosophy when that happens? And he didn't want to share that philosophy. But essentially what he said was, look, when you commit to Miami, and this is something he learned from Jimmy Johnson, you have to recruit for Miami, right? Like
Yep.
that's how they tell how firm your commitment really is. And you mentioned Jaden Rashada recruiting. We've seen Francis Mauigoa sort of outspoken about trying to get guys to come to Miami. I guess in your opinion, hearing Mario's answer to that question and what I just told you, if you had to say, maybe this is somebody who decommits from Miami's class of the 16 commitments, do you have a name? Do you have a guy you're nervous about because of, maybe they really are looking at the on-field results and that's what's going to matter most to them in the end?
Um,
I know I'm putting you on the spot. It's not an easy
I
question to
don't
answer.
think I have a name that would decommit for those purposes. I think everyone that they've gotten is pretty locked in. I think just between the early signing day, between the way NIL has changed everything, I think we're seeing, a lot more early commits and a lot of these kids sticking. I think you're going to see less decommits this cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I think if there were to be some kids to decommit, it could possibly be kids that are just looking for a better opportunity elsewhere just due to either, like you said, if they push out one of the lower ranked offensive linemen. I know Emory Williams is saying all the right stuff right now, but if he were to go get that big offer to be the top quarterback in another team's class, if he would take that and possibly leave compared to being, here behind Rashada, or maybe one of the lower ranked of the three tight ends that we have committed right now with Reed Makesha, Jackson Carver, and Riley Williams. I think if may see someone like Makesha leave. So I don't think it's necessarily anyone that would be, a top target that gets flipped at the end or anything like that. But I think there could be some kids, just seeing that they're second, third at their position in this class, that could, look around as we get later and closer to signing day.
Recruiting never stops, right? So I'm
Yeah.
looking at my text message threads, and I get texted throughout the day by different people who have different connections. And so apparently Jaden Bonsu, the safety that Miami's been hoping to get a commitment from out of New Jersey, 4-star kid. There's a crystal ball put in for Ohio State
Yep.
just recently. What's the thought process on him before we let you go?
So I know when his original recruitment date was set, Miami felt really confident there. He's pushed things back. Well, he moved it up and then he pushed it back, and then he pushed it back again. So we're on like the fourth commitment date. I think the last one they felt pretty confident on. This one there definitely seems to be some more Ohio State momentum. I think he's planning on committing around late August. I think it's like around the 16th or 20th now. Um, so I think Ohio State probably has the momentum right now. We saw those crystal balls coming recently.
Well, they
But
they
his
missed out on a safety, or I mean, besides having Dijon decommit from them, they also had a safety. I think they were hoping to get that they didn't land. So maybe this is
Yep,
their
Kit
second.
Downs that went to Bama.
Right.
Um, so I think they may have really turned up the heat on him and possibly, swung things their way here. Um, but this recruitment has been so back and forth over the last month that really nothing would surprise me in the next 2 to 3 weeks before he commits.
What would be Miami's backup plan for safety? Because obviously, I know they wanted the other kid who committed to Georgia, Chanel
Aguero.
Aguero. Yeah.
Mhm.
Is what would you think, or maybe some of the backup plans for safety if they're unable to get a Bonsu into this class?
I think they'd have to really kind of take a step back and reset the board there. That would be, you know, two or three of their top targets that they missed out there at that safety position. Um, I'm not sure if you try to circle back on someone like a King Mack at St. Thomas, who's committed to Penn State right now. Um,
Conrad Hussey.
Conrad Hussey as well at that
Mm-hmm.
same at St. Thomas as well. Um, so I think, or even a 4-star kid like Damon Fagan, who they didn't really press for, but he's committed to NC State right
Mm-hmm.
now. So I
Right.
think if they were to miss out on Bonzu, I think you kind of have to really kind of reset the board and maybe take a second look at some of those local guys that didn't necessarily push for quite as hard early on.
Well, the good thing about the safety position is Avante Williams is the only safety on the roster who could go to the NFL early at this point. You
Mhm.
still have James Williams and Cam Kitchens for at least another year after this, because you can't go until after your third year. Avante is entering his third year. So, as far as immediate need, hey, they need a safety. It's not like it's an overwhelming pressing need. And my thought would be James Williams and Cam Kitchens aren't going anywhere. They're going to be a big part of this defense this year. So, but we'll see. Interesting, the world of recruiting, always changing. Andrew, I appreciate you coming on, man, and talking with us. I guess I'll give you this one on the way out. What's the biggest storyline you're watching for in camp here? What draws your most interest here as camp gets underway? The biggest question for you.
I think two things. I want to see the offensive line, how they improve under Mariball, um, and then that wide receiver group. I want to see who steps on up on the outside. I think we've got some solid slot guys between Restrepo, Brashad Smith, but I want to see who really takes that next step on the outside. If it's going to be Jacoby George, Romello Brinson, Keyshawn Smith, Colby Young, who just transferred in, who's massive. This he looks like a defensive end walking around out there. Um, I think I just want to kind of see who separates themselves as those top outside wide receivers over these next few weeks.
Completely agree. Good talking to you, Andrew. Got to get you on again soon.
Sounds good anytime.